So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. Government procurement cards have been around for over 15 years and they've been proven to be an efficient solution for some aspects of procurement. Now, why is Mastercard speaking to you today? We're probably known to you as the card in the top of your wallet or purse, as a card scheme. But we don't actually issue any plastic cards ourselves. We're a technology company. Where we add value is on the data that we can provide alongside your transactional data. So just before we start, there's a forward-looking statement disclaimer that I have to use because Mastercard is a US registered corporation. So I've been asked to talk about procurement cards and how they've improved efficiency, what the future of payment card solutions looks like, and how e-payments can help encourage small businesses to bid for public procurement requirements and get paid quicker. I'll also explain how prepaid cards are extending the scope of card payments and hopefully address some of the issues that Sally raised around the processes currently being too complex and long, the lack of data, and how you leverage purchasing spend for the government as an organisation. Purchasing cards have traditionally been seen as a low-value procurement solution, and this stems back from when originally buying solutions defined their use in the framework. However, they've not yet achieved their potential, primarily due to finance directors, commercial controllers and accounts payable staff fearing a lack of control. And also, small suppliers have not got on board because they perceive the cost of accepting cards as being too high. So I mentioned Mastercard does not issue cards directly, but through our issuing customers, such as the RBS Group and JP Morgan. What we do is provide innovative solutions such as Mastercard in Control, which brings in virtual card technology and controls down to an individual transaction level. So if a council has somebody that works in their stores, you can actually put controls in place now that they can buy from B&Q between 9 and 5 on a Monday to Friday. And that's some of the feedback that we've received over the years that was stopping cards being rolled out. Mastercard Smart Data also provides a comprehensive management information solution that's online, but also can be integrated into your back office system, whether that be SAP or Oracle or Aggressor or even Sage. Therefore, cards have set about trying to deliver the key government objectives of being transparent, controlled, and auditable. And this is one of the few things that, as a salesman, you will sell where you actually pay your customers for taking the actual solution. So one of the key points that when I was asked to come today was to talk about, what are those real savings that can be made? And we talked about control and transparency and compliance. Compliance not just with procurement rules, but also with data protection. Facilitates collaboration. There may be some organisations in the room that actually have government procurement card programmes across a set of organisations, such as district councils getting together, in some cases county councils working together. The sticky point of how much a transaction costs and what the cost savings are, if we use the kind of SIPS rationale of around £70 for the total cost of a requisition to a full invoice reconciling in the back office system, by introducing a card-based system from a completely paper-based system. We did some research a couple of years ago across 40 public sector entities, and we saw a saving of £22 a transaction. However, there are very few organisations that are completely paper-based, so I would urge that work with ourselves and with the issuers to actually work out what those savings would be for you. So moving forward from the government procurement card, the market is constantly changing. Cheques and cash payments are disappearing from the high street and indeed from your procurement processes too. Card products are constantly developing from a technology point of view, and electronic payment solutions are really the next stage of that procurement. If we were to look at a continuum, we would see here that government procurement card is evolving, and across public and private sector we're seeing cards being embedded into processes all the way through to supply chain finance and complete integrated e-trading hubs. We'll talk more about that as we go through. So many public sector organisations are already there in terms of using electronic invoicing, and that will become much more prevalent with European directives on suppliers accepting e-invoices and the use of electronic marketplaces. However, we constantly go into public sector organisations and find that whilst all of that has been streamlined and automated, the payment process has been left alone, and the poor supplier is still at the end of that being paid 45 days. Our answer to that was to develop a solution called Mastercard Purchase and Pay. Truly an end-to-end solution, right from the quotation from suppliers, the selection, the purchase order from the existing back office system, the request for payment, the payment and the integration, and most importantly the reconciliation in the back office. So suppliers can set up their catalogues in a marketplace, and one of the key ones that we're working with is the government e-marketplace, but not exclusively. So a supplier can set up their catalogues there, or they can participate in the marketplace through quotations. The buyer can log in, still carry out their back office compliance through their ERP systems, and access the supplier content. Once they've selected what goods or services they want to buy, then a purchase order is raised in the standard way. However, once the goods are then ready for delivery, or that process can be created, the marketplace actually kicks out a request for a virtual card number. So this is a single-use virtual e-payment. One-time use, so therefore the payments can't be duplicated, and at that point the purchase order is flipped to an invoice and sent to Mastercard's global data repository. What we have now is a transaction with a unique reference number, and that's very important. The payment is made in the usual way through the Mastercard system, either through the acquiring bank or what we'll call a master merchant, and we'll come back to that. The funds are credited to the supplier, and here we're saying that the funds are credited immediately. Yes, the payment will be received into their bank account within 2 working days, but effectively, when you go into WH Smith's and you buy something and you give them your card, that's the point where you've actually made the payment. Importantly, the data then flows back through the issuing bank, and the line item detail comes into Mastercard Smart Data. So at this point, we have all the line item detail from the marketplace, we have the VAT information from the supplier, and we have all of that rich purchase order information from the original back office system, all integrated and back into the back office system, literally without the buyer having to get further involved. So we've integrated e-payments with proven trading hubs like the government e-marketplace through Procurement. We've utilised the purchasing card capability, but reduced the need for physical plastic. Importantly, the SMEs are included, and that's vital in accelerating payments into local communities, and the multiplier effect that has in terms of liquidity. Meeting the government's growth agenda and creating a more level playing field. The government needs are wide-ranging and mostly complementary to each other. So we brought two frameworks together to deliver a greater solution than the sum of their parts. So we looked at the overall government needs, but most importantly what the UK public sector really needs. And that's control, transparency and auditability. We presented on this for several years, but all the more important in today's economic situation. But equally important, a value for money and compliance and integration. So all too often, procurement initiatives have delivered their objectives, have not delivered their objectives as the barriers to supply involvement have not been addressed. For many SMEs, cash flow management is vital to their continued existence. Also, small businesses need to utilise their time effectively, and therefore any initiative needs to be easy to join. So, haven't you heard all this before? Many organisations have sunk millions of pounds into their back office solution or ERP system. Therefore, there's a reluctance to replace functionality and a perceived loss of control and/or compliance. Cost of entry has also been a barrier to SMEs, and these are things that we've taken into account and addressed in preparing this solution. So how is it different? Well, it's integrated. It allows more transactions to be incorporated into both government procurement card programs and marketplaces. And for many organisations, this effectively leverages their existing programs. And where not, it offers an ease of entry. The compliance is built in, there are no duplicate payments, and all the stakeholders can see what is important to them, creating that good quality data that Sally was after. So the combination of e-payments and e-procurement is compelling. It combines control and transparency with a solution for all suppliers. And importantly, getting payments to SMEs is key in driving liquidity into the local marketplace. I've referred to the granularity of the spend data available and shown how some of the supplier barriers can be removed. Purchase and Pay is a powerful solution that will fundamentally change how UK public sector integrates e-payments into supply chain. Secure, transparent and controlled. So how do we support the SMEs through a government procurement card? Now, if you're one of the larger suppliers to public sector, then you can go along to your bank and become acquired, and probably already are because you have trade counters, etc. However, if you're a small business, there's a traditional onboarding process, which can involve a great deal of work, escrow accounts, and commitments to long-term deals, and can take up to 3 months to get on board. Obviously, we've looked at this from a lean point of view and an ease of entry. And through working with a partner called Inverpay on a master merchant relationship, we've integrated the capability for small suppliers to actually come on board online in a period of less than 10 minutes. All they need to play is an internet connection. Obviously, the key for SMEs is improving the cash flow, but obviously the additional benefits are the data that they receive, the accreditation is already there from Revenue and Customs, and not having to invest in technology. So whilst we've focused on government procurement card and the e-marketplace, we've also been asked to talk about how we are extending the scope of payments. And I know there are many councils in the room that are probably already using prepaid cards. So I'll just spend 5 minutes talking about how prepaid cards are helping to change, particularly local government spending. A significant proportion of citizens are without bank accounts. They also happen to be those people that are unemployed or on a low income, elderly, lone parents or housing tenants, and they're likely to be in receipt of benefits. The traditional methods of funding through cash or to a bank account can be difficult to reconcile. The need to chase clients for data and inevitably backlogs of administration. Also, traditional processes make it difficult to take money back when it's necessary for inappropriate use or underspend. So where cards are now being used on a prepaid basis are in the areas of benefits, where it's efficient and accurate monitoring and reporting where necessary are a real boost. For social and healthcare, where direct payments are made, but also to help young people leaving care or for the purchase of special equipment. In transit, frequent allowances to employees can be put onto a card. And obviously for emergencies, they can be issued and during an emergency can be loaded instantly. As an employer, prepaid cards are also being used for payroll as an ideal way of quickly paying temporary and agency staff or making payments to new staff. For removing petty cash, taking large amounts of time and effort for relatively low risk out of the process. And here we find spot checks rather than the continuous monitoring of the cash are appropriate, e.g. for housing repairs. In travel, for staff expenses, in many organisations there's a duplication of effort across many departments. Prepaid cards have been found to reduce that down to one key process. And in this world of a competitive employment market, councils are having to pay some relocation costs to attract high calibre staff. So this ring fences some of that relocation expense. And where vouchers are used, they can replace daily expense allowances or luncheon vouchers as a low cost alternative. So the benefits to a public sector include a lower cost of operation because it automates and streamlines operations. That can link to an improved quality of service, and your clients get their money quicker. Replaces cash handling, a saving here in time and effort, and that time can be spent in more meaningful tasks, and removes the risk of cash handling and security. Better monitoring, again back to the data aspect. Recorded electronically and the details are available for analysis. Don't have to ask your client for bank statements and evidence. More effective use of staff time. Using staff to recover paper-based administration and refocusing on higher value activities is a real boost. And supports the personalisation and commissioning agenda. It gives the required control of who and what money is spent, again with the ability to monitor. That also leads to delivering better outcomes, good outcomes, so no cash or unauthorised spend. And improved client service. Also, the service can be quicker, because funds can be loaded immediately and in real time. You can respond to emergencies, and there's the ability to identify and recognise how that spend is made. And a real boost, there's no major investment. The ability to integrate with back office systems, but it's easy to just use CSV files to load on, so no expensive rekeying. And we do have evidence from some councils where they've actually generated income from using prepaid cards, where your customers require their payments to be managed. This can be carried out by a council, for instance, for a monthly fee. It's available to all, so regardless of financial circumstances. It gives the ability to shop online, which perhaps wasn't available previously. Clients may be happier to make payments and not have to deal with the security and cash aspects and personal safety. Importantly, it builds up life skills such as learning how to pay by card, using a PIN and going online, as opposed to check cashing, which can be at extortionate rates. Also, many products are cheaper online, particularly for those that are unbanked, but have not had that privilege previously, and quicker because of the emergency capabilities. So thank you for your time and attention. Now an opportunity to answer some questions.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Steve, thank you very much indeed. Anybody have any questions, Steve, about cards in general and their use, either from a supplier's perspective or from a purchasing perspective? No. Okay, Steve, just one. I noticed you changed from the 76 to 28 to the 20 under 22. Thanks, sir.
Steve, on the savings perspective, we've seen organisations claiming all sorts of values on the saving from going from a process to a card. What would you see is the realistic value? I know you had up to £22 there, but most organisations aren't moving from paper-based to plastic now.
No, and I did address that during the presentation. In that the caveat is that not many organisations are going from a true paper over to plastic completely, and therefore it must be on a case-by-case basis. I've seen some as low as £5 per saving, but those that have got traditional processes can be considerably more than £22. But I don't think that as a figure of £28 that has any credibility in the current age, and it must be down to individual organisations to see what they were costing before and looking with their providers as to what it will cost afterwards.
But the key message there is there's still quite a significant shared saving.
Yes, significant. But also, if you put it in the context of, at the moment, government procurement cards have been pretty static for the UK public sector at around £1 billion for the last 4 or 5 years. I think with the links to electronic marketplaces with purchase and pay, we can see a lot more of that spend coming under managed control. If you look at just some of the marketplace spend at the moment, is in the tens of billions. So the capacity to expand that level of payments is incredible, and therefore some of the savings are available.
Steve, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my question. Anybody else? No. Steve, you're very lucky. Thank you.